Welcome to the Hope for Healing Network. This is Cecily Henderson. Thank you for joining us in this safe space today. I want to introduce my guest, who is one of my dearest friends. We've known each other for about 15 years, went to college together. And in fact, my daughter babysat for him. So that tells you we've known each other for a while. And he's just been there for me when I was going through my trauma. He's been through several different things himself. He's previous military, retired, and is doing some amazing things. And I asked him to please come on and tell everybody about the amazing things and work that he is doing, because this topic needs to get out there. And he's going to be the one to help me do it. And Andrew, welcome. Thank you for being here and being willing to do this.
Thank you, Cecily. First of all, by the way, it's not 15. We're at 20 years. It was 2005, so it's been
Oh
a
my
day.
gosh, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been a long time. Yeah, I'm just so grateful for friends like you, because you have been there. Like when I was going through my PTSD and my depression, you were right there because you've gone through it yourself, some severe PTSD, being in the military and all the experiences. And we're going to talk about it. So please stay tuned. People keep on this interview, because we have some very special things to share with you today. So, Andrew, just start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been, your journey, and then what you're doing.
Okay. Well, I joined the Marine Corps in 93. And I guess it was probably 94, 95 that my wife had me come into therapy, which I was completely against. I thought was hokey and a few other things. Um, but she was going and she goes, this is for us as a couple. I said, okay. So I went in. And it wasn't very long after that the therapist was like, you definitely have PTSD. And that was from, obviously that wasn't even from the Marine Corps yet. Um, so I had things, there. And I kind of shirked it off and didn't really care much. Uh, the signs were there. And as it is with most people with PTSD, we're fine. Everybody else has a problem. Um, and I was lucky enough that a few years later, we had moved to Hawaii, and we had a priest that kind of got me thinking of some things, pointed things out, uh, and I started listening to my wife. Started getting more therapy. Um, as it went on and on and on, uh, started realizing more and more that I don't know what's going on, that she does. And so I started incorporating her into my appointments. Uh, there's a lot of times when I sit down with my doctors and they want to know how things are going. I'll say, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." And she looks at me and goes, "I don't think so." Um, so, I learned how important it is that if we're going to go down this journey of recovery, you got to listen to the people around you. Um, it's just perception's reality. Even if I think I'm being calm and talking to somebody, in my body language, in my appearance is aggressive, then I'm aggressive. Um, so yeah, without her, I probably wouldn't be here today. So that was our start. Um, did a lot of therapy uh, going into things, and then I ended up doing trips to Iraq and Afghanistan, and it started to compound things. There were things that you see do, um, just I wouldn't even know where to start. Um, I found out very quickly that my second deployment to Iraq in '05 was probably more combat related and intense than my first one. And I found myself on the way home. It was harder to come home than it was to deploy. Deploying, you're trained for it, you're ready to go, you're excited. Coming home, now you've done these things. Do I tell my wife? Do I not tell my wife? If I tell her, what's she going to think? If I talk about some of this stuff, what are the people that I go to church with? You claim to be a Christian, but these things go against all our morals and everything else. Um, at that time, I had my two oldest. Well, you start thinking that someday they're going to get old enough to ask these questions. Did you go? What happened? Do you tell them the truth or do you lie? And if you lie and they find out about the lie, how's that going to affect your relationship? So this is all going on as you're coming home. And in retrospect, it really does not or did not help the PTSD in any way, shape, or form. It definitely made it worse. Um, and because of those things, and your mind's wrapped around that, and there's guilt, and there's, you don't want to lie to people, but at the same time, there's fear. You keep that bottled up, and you can't keep things like that uh, in check for very long. Um, so it was shortly after getting back from that one of the therapists I was seeing said, "Have you ever tried EMDR, eye movement desensitization reassignment?" And nope, what is it? And so they explained it to me. Once again, I'm like, okay, you're a witch doctor, um, but I'll give it a try and see what happens. And within about 3 sessions, they started bringing me off some of my medications, um, which was huge for me. I hate taking meds. So any therapy or anything that I can do to stay off of them, I'm all for it. Um, it was about that time after going through multiple appointments with the EMDR that I realized that um, this is not a one and done thing. So, I've progressed through to the end of my career. Um, I've diagnosed PTSD. It's a good portion of my veterans disability. Um, I am 100% permanent and total. So what I found over the years, especially going through college, where my focus was on criminal psychology, forensic psychology, um, that there's two things that when it comes to PTSD, there's really two things there. The first is PTS, and that's the one thing that isn't talked about, right? If you go through something that is traumatic, and it doesn't matter what it is, you know, what was traumatic for me is not going to be traumatic for you. I know Marines that weren't in an explosion, but they lost a friend. And that was traumatic enough to them to cause post traumatic stress. It's post trauma stress. We don't ever want to tell somebody, well, that's not really a stressor. That's not really traumatic. Again, we don't know from their point of view. We have to empathize with that. Um, and the thing they don't tell you is that if you have post traumatic stress and you see somebody and you take care of it, you don't add the disorder part. It's when you ignore it and it develops to where it's now affecting a good majority of your life, how you act, interacting with people, going out in public, etc. Now you have the disorder. And once you hit that disorder part, it's not, you can't take a medicine. You can't, there's no single therapy. You've got it, you're keeping it. It's not going to go away. And you got to understand that from the start. Nobody wants to hear it, but that's just the way it is. And you have to understand that because it can't go away, the only thing we can do is control it. Um,
Yeah.
and so, with that, there's several different therapies and you kind of go through them kind of in process, cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma focused, the EMDR. I just went through one that I never expected it to hit me as hard as it did. Um, and that was moral injury and repair. And that was definitely one of the hardest ones I've done. It is not for the faint of heart. Um, but I've also done those therapies repeatedly, like maybe 6 or 7 times each. Um, simply because, and anybody that's going through this, I tell them, just because you took a therapy doesn't mean don't do it again. Every time you retake it, you're in a different place in your journey, right? When I took CBT for the first time, to when I've taken it the last time, I've changed quite a bit. So my view of what was being part of the therapy, I look at it differently. I take in different things. Plus, you've got a different person conducting the therapy. So every time you go through these, you add tools, you help yourself out. Uh,
Yeah. And you've been through a lot of different types of therapies because your experiences in the military, you were right in the thick of it. Yeah, and you've told me some experiences and they're so traumatic and you've gone through so much. And I know that you helped me like when I was going through my trauma, you would say, "Hey, try this or try that." And so you because you've gone through this experience, you were able to help me and I'm sure other people.
well, again, it's one thing as I started getting some of this and getting my head together, where I could see triggers and started controlling things a little better. I looked back and realized, when I first got diagnosed with this, the military, if you had PTSD, it was gone. And we disguised it as couples therapy, marriage counseling. Otherwise, I'd have gone through years of military service with no kind of help. And so um, I'm so glad that the military finally came around and recognized it for what it is,
Yeah, me
and got
too.
behind the treatment. Um, but the big thing I took out of that was I never had anybody to guide me other than my wife. Nobody said, go to this therapy. Nobody said, hey, have you tried this? Nobody gave me anything. And I know how hard that was. Um, and as we've talked, I've watched friends struggle with those things. And again, I know this was a topic we talked about. You know, uh, we lose an average of 22 veterans a day to suicide. And that's a crazy number,
That's insane.
you know, and when you know
Oh my
them
gosh.
and you realize, if somebody would have just stepped in, if somebody would have shown them where to start, give them some encouragement, right? Not look down on them, not say, oh, hey, really? You got PTSD? Um, what would have been different, right? Would you have made a difference? Um, and so that's just one thing as I've gone through it, if I can lend a hand or make it easier for people, why not? Um, I've got a friend just recently that I served in Afghanistan with, a very good friend. He called me up, says, hey, Mac, I'm not in a good place. And we talked for about 2.5, 3 hours. Um, he didn't like therapy, didn't like talking with everybody. It's uncomfortable. I said, hey, brother, first step's the hardest. Not easy, but the reward is worth it. And proud to say he's taken that step. And after his first session, he called me up and he goes, it was not what I thought it would be. He goes, I feel a lot better. So, my philosophy is if I can help one brother or sister in arms to not become that 22, hopefully we're making a dent in it. So,
I see so many wonderful things. You helped me, you're helping others. And I know that you are doing some amazing things. And before we get into the exciting part, because please stay tuned. We have something very exciting to share with you. I was looking at the wall, right? Because we were talking about what was in the background. And I want people to know, like you have your challenge coins,
yeah.
right? On the wall there, all those wonderful coins. Explain to people what are challenge coins.
Um, Actually, the history of the challenge coin is pretty neat. Um, it came from early sailors. The outgoing captain and the oncoming captain would go below, and on the main mast, they would take a silver dollar and drive it into the post. And it was meant to be, the off-going captain's symbol of good luck, fair winds following seas. Um, and it's developed out there. Usually, the challenge coins, I got some in there that are for organizations and things like that. Everybody's doing it, but um, a lot of times those challenge coins, when they're attached to an individual, general, sergeant major, or anything like that, they're usually given for something you've done, good job that's above and beyond. They don't just, throw them out there. There's a lot of times, um, you'll come in contact with the general and he might have 3 coins on him. So, he's not giving one to everybody. And over the years, I spent 3.5 years as head of personal security for the commander in chief of the Pacific. I got to meet a lot of really cool people, a lot of people with stars, and um, as we interact with them, sometimes we get coins. So it adds to the experience, and I like the way they look.
Well, there was one that you took out particular, right, that I would like for you to share with people. It was so cool, the story that you told me.
So this is a presidential coin, and I got it from George Bush. Um, I got an opportunity uh, when I was working with the admiral. Uh, it was kind of a funny story. I dropped the admiral off to get on the helicopter, Marine One, and I'm just standing there with the car because we have to wait till the helicopter takes off to move it. And his aide comes out and says, "Hey, come along. We got an open seat." Okay. And so I get in, I buckle in, thinking I'm going to be like they're going to be behind me and stuff because of the jump seats and all. And once I get all settled and kind of realize what's going on, I'm literally sitting like across from George Bush. And I'm a sergeant at the time, so you're just sitting there like, oh my God, don't talk to me. So, but he did. He asked some questions, and we talked a little bit. We went up, came back. Um, I got a box of his peanut M&Ms off the helicopter, and before he parted ways, he gave me his coin. Um, so that was pretty
Wow,
neat. I've
that's
also
so
got one
special.
here that's kind of neat. This is from Secretary of Defense Gates. And it's kind of unique because he's one of the only ones that has served as Secretary of Defense twice under different administrations. And I got his coin because in in 2009, when we were in Afghanistan, uh, my primary job was security for incoming dignitaries because we were building Camp Leatherneck. And he came in to check on the progress, and I was responsible for getting him around and making sure his security was taken care of. So I got his coin too.
Oh my gosh, incredible. Your stories. I know you have a lot of very incredible stories to share. And I mean, you should write a book. You should. You should write a book. But I know. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing right now to honor the men and women, and those especially that have fallen. Please tell us what you're doing.
All right. So I attend a regular continuing care group up here out of the VA. Excuse me. And the facilitator for this is absolutely amazing. She goes out of her way. She knows that there's uh, various things out there that veterans are going to need to uh, process, to work with um, their traumas. And so she goes out into the public. And if you've got a story, like you've said, to write it down, she will put you in contact with local authors who've published books, and they will help you get your story published. May not go anywhere, but they'll bind it and everything else, and it can sit on your shelf. That's my story. Pottery, painting. Uh, they've got one, I got it back there somewhere. They do mask making, and it sounds corny, but when you sit there with that mask, now you're faced with, okay, I've got to reflect myself in this mask. What do I want on it? Right? What do I want to remind me to not go back? And it's a whole lot harder than people think. But it's very good. Um, anyway, because of that, they were talking about a group that helps with music. I play guitar and I enjoy it. Um, and so she put me in contact with Dan Hudson, who we've talked about, and hopefully you'll have him on shortly. Um, but he's the president of a nonprofit up here called Operation Check Six. For those that don't know, Check Six is to have that's somebody who has your back. They're checking your six. It goes by a clock. Well, 6 o'clock. Um, and
I love
our
it.
goal is to help not only veterans but first responders. Because they're kind of forgotten in this whole PTSD conversation. Um, we help them through their trauma treatments, one note at a time. So, the organization has repaired instruments and given them to veterans who, maybe they've gone through a hard time. They've lost their instrument. They quit playing for whatever reason, and now they want to get back. So a lot of times they'll get donated instruments, fix them up, um, give them to the veterans. Uh, there's a lot of times that we'll play like veterans homes or special events for Veterans Days and things like that. Uh, they've got their own little band that is primarily veterans. A lot of times they'll have events where um, they'll have that group come in, but they'll also have the veterans who have written songs or have worked with things come in and do theirs, which is pretty powerful when you can sit there and look at other veterans, listen to their songs. It kind of gives you a story of what they've gone through, etc.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but we've also, um, veterans write stuff down, say, hey, I would love this put to music. And so we try. Uh, some of them, we've got a guy who does great jobs with editing music. We try to put it together. Maybe we'll give it back to him on a CD. Here's your song. Some of them, they want to do their own. So, you know, playing my guitar and music has been a huge part of my recovery. That's one of my tools. When I start to get have a rough day, or I start to get frustrated, or I feel some of those things, I shut the door, grab the guitar, and I'll sit here. You know, um,
And you've created these amazing songs and music, and you shared that with me, and I would love for you to share it today. And we talked about this. So, what do these people, these veterans that are going through this, and they have this song that is written? I mean, how's the responses been?
so far, really good. Um, there's been times where we've done things and we have other veterans come up and say, we didn't know you existed. I play. Can we sit down sometime? And it doesn't have to be through the organization. I've had a couple guys that live in the area. Yeah, let's just get together and play. It's huge. you know um, Anytime you've got somebody, veteran first responder, that says, hey, you know I like to paint. Well, if you're a painter, get together. That human contact, that support, is imperative to their journey. Um, just like the continuing care group. Again, PTSD doesn't go away. You know, um, not trying to you know do anything, but it's like AA, right? You can't stop and then not go to meetings. The program doesn't work that way. Same here. Once you get down this trail and once you start recovery, you've got to stay on the trail. Um, so yeah, we've got to listen, uh, because those instances are going to be there. There's going to be those opportunities that you need to step in, for their help. And what I found is that a lot of times when I help, it helps me. Everybody's put in our life for a reason. Sometimes it's for me to help them, and sometimes it's for them to help me. You just got to figure out which one it is. Um, so yeah, it's and in that process of listening, uh, sometimes you'll catch people that are struggling. Maybe you're the one that gives them a couple of hints to get some where they need to go. We just have to be open to it.
Wow, what an incredible program that they're offering, because
I
music
I,
therapy.
I absolutely love them. Uh, you know, we talked about the music. Um, Kind of a funny story with that. Kind of the way I got a little bit deeper into them. Uh, I had a traumatic event that just kept going over and over. And one night I had a nightmare that was unlike anything I'd ever had. And the only thing that worked was, the last thing was sit down and write it out. And as I wrote it out, I ended up writing the lyrics to the song. And I sent it to Dan, and he immediately was like, okay, we need to get this taken care of. And he actually went through the process and got me the federal copyright on the song. Um, so it's, again, the opportunities. I got with them to help others, and they ended up helping me.
So tell us about this song that you wrote,
Um,
because it is so amazing. I cry every time I listen to it, but please tell us.
so As I mentioned, we have 22 veterans a day that commit suicide. Um, it's one thing to know somebody who commits suicide. It's another to have somebody under your command commit suicide. So as a Marine Staff NCO, we're expected to take care of those junior Marines, right? Those are our kids. Um, we go through every 6 months suicide awareness training. Look for these signs, look for this, look for this, look for this. Um, Kind of jumping ahead of myself, I found out after some of this many years later that more often than not, when you see those signs that they told us to look for, somebody needs help. They want help, they just not know how to ask for it. Usually, if somebody's committed to suicide, you're not going to know it till it's over. And that's the hard reality. Um, so I had this kid that was sent to me. We were at a small group in Pittsburgh, so it was just him and I in our shop. And he was sent back to Pittsburgh. That's where he was from. He was pending a medical separation. And, we got to know each other pretty good. And one Friday, we were talking about he was rebuilding an old car and he kind of got the last piece to his engine, you know, on Thursday. And he was excited about getting in his car. It's a muscle car. He's done all this work. I'm like, man, I'm excited to see it. Bring the thing in Monday. I want to see it. He's like, yeah, we'll bring it in. And okay. And we left that Friday and, hey, can't wait to see you Monday. Yep. I want to, I'm ready to see this car. Saturday afternoon, I got a call from my first sergeant and he starts asking me questions about my Marine. You know, did he act out of the ordinary? Did he do this? And after about four questions, like, first sergeant, what the hell is going on? And he says, well, this morning your Marine committed suicide. And as his leader, that hit hard. Um, Once the shock of the message wore off, the questions started, the doubt. Where did I fail? What did I miss? Right? Oh my God, I screwed up. You know, um, that's kind of hard. Um, you know, I felt very quickly responsible for his death because obviously there was something there, right? Because we've been trained on this every 6 months, drilled in our head. So, obviously I missed something, right? Because our training says that when they do this, these are the things that are going to happen. So, again, found out later that what they taught us kind of set you up for the trauma. You know what I mean? Um, so, that was just weighing very heavily on me. Well, I can't be part of the funeral detail because we're expected when we do those details to be very stoic, non-emotional. Um, we have to be that rock for the family. If we break down, get emotional, it's a downhill slope. So because it was my Marine, yeah, couldn't do it. Um, so I stood there at the funeral, and I wasn't very far away from his mother, his fiance, and his little boy. And the whole time, the only thing going through my head was, there's going to come a time here shortly that I got to stand in front of them, offer my condolences, when in my heart, I think I'm responsible for the death of their loved one. Um, I got through it and I just fell apart afterwards. So that progression has haunted me for years. It was probably one of my most recurring nightmares. And I still get it. It's not going to go away. Um, but it wasn't until maybe, I guess, 3 years ago now, maybe four, that my therapist, the VA, we were talking about this. And that's what they said is, look, when somebody's committed, you're not going to stop it. They're not going to tell you because they don't want you stopping them. And
Right.
it kind of made sense. And so I started to realize that, maybe I didn't miss something because there was nothing there to miss. The decision had been made. He wasn't looking for help, right? So it is what it is. And that happened to be the nightmare that I had that night that woke me up, and it was unusual because my heart rate was way up there in the hundreds. Um, I was just drenched in sweat. I breathing heavy, shaking. Uh, and I got up. I tried everything. I tried a cold shower. I walked around, just absolutely every little tool that I could think of. Um, and kind of as a last ditch effort, I pulled out my iPad and started typing. Ironically, that calmed me down, and I was able to go back to sleep. Um, when I got up the next morning and revisited it, I was like, if I move this here, right? Just the way my mind worked, I was like, I wonder if I could put this in a song, tidy it up. Because again, that's part of my tool. So I wrote it down. So the next step is to go back, revisit it, you know, and kind of process it. And within about 20 minutes, I think I had them rearranged into what the song was going to be. Um, the next day, I started humming a random tune and putting the words into it. Third day, I sat down with my guitar, and within about 30 minutes, probably had it worked out to where I had chords for it, the rhythm and everything. Um, I played it through 3 or 4 times, grabbed my phone of all things, and did a voice recording of it. And that's what I sent to Dan. And that was kind of the start of it all. Um,
Wow. Oh my gosh.
and when we started this, Dan asked me a really good question, uh, something I had never thought about, even remotely. He's like, what do you want to get out of this? You know, this is good. We want to put it out there. What do you expect to get out of it? Well, crap. I don't know. And in the long run, we came up with, if I put it out there and one veteran hears it, just one, and it hits them and it causes them to go get help, change their mind, stop them from going down that path, 100% worth it. Um, Again, kind of a neat story that goes with this. Be about a week and a half, 2 weeks after I put the song out there, put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook, sent it to friends. I got a message from a guy I served with in Iraq, a very good friend of mine. And his wife messaged me. She goes, I got a really weird question. So what's that? She goes, did you write a song? By odd chance, yes, I did. She goes, okay, that makes sense. Okay, what makes sense? You know, don't go into a conversation and not let me know everything. And she said, well, my husband listened to your song and he had a complete and utter emotional breakdown. He was on the floor. He was moving around, couldn't catch his breath. He couldn't understand anything. He was just mumbling and inaudible. And she said the only two things that we could hear was Mac and song. And she said, so he's in the hospital right now and they're trying to get him calm. So, man, I said, all right, let me know how he's doing. And he said, and also let me know when he gets home and he's in a spot where I can call him, because in that condition, if he's mentioning my name and song, I do not want to call and talk to him while he's not stable. Don't want to retrigger anything. So I guess it's about 2, 3 weeks later, she wrote me, she goes, he's in a spot where you could probably call. Sorry. So I called him. The first words out of his mouth were, Mac, you're an asshole. Oh, it's good to talk to you too, man. Um, you know, um, he said, that damn song. So what about it? He goes, I listened to it and everything I'd already dealt with, worked on, came back all at once. Just hit me like a freight train. And I said, you know what, brother? I'm going to be just dead honest with you. I said, if my song had that reaction on you to things that you think you've dealt with, you haven't dealt with shit yet, but man, you know, I said, it's like your dog taking a dump in the living room carpet and you put a paper towel over it. You don't see it. It's still there. That's what you did. You covered up your trauma. You never resolved it. You made it in your mind, rep, I'm okay. It's not bugging me until something triggers it.
Right.
And so I guess we talked for Seems like my conversations hit around 2 hours on this stuff for some reason. But we talked a lot about my path, you know. Um, don't let pride stand in your way, and we talked about all the therapies I've been through. We talked about the road that it is. Uh, I believe very strongly you do not candy coat it. They need to know how hard it's going to be from the start, because when they know that and they go into it, they're ready for it. I know it was going to be this hard. I got this. Whereas if you don't tell them, you make it sound like it's this great thing, they're going to hit that hard part, that first step, and they'll be like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Um, so, we hung up, and that was a Thursday, I think, if I remember right, just because of the memory of the progression. But his wife messaged me again on Monday, and she said, what did you talk to my husband about? Now I'm worried, because did I say something that re-triggered him, made things worse? Again, tell me what's going on. Um, I said, well, this is kind of what we talked about. She goes, that makes sense. She goes, he went to the VA today and asked for help.
Oh my gosh.
I never thought
Wow.
that the one veteran I was going to help so fast was my buddy. Um, so honestly, it's made absolutely everything worth it. And for those out there, if you see somebody struggling, if you think that they're going down that path, I've watched guys, well, I don't want to piss them off. Piss them off. They can be mad at you while they're alive,
Right.
you
Exactly.
know? Um,
Exactly. Speak up.
don't don't hide from it. Don't put blinders, don't put the paper towel over it. It's not
Right.
going away.
Right.
22 a day. It's there. It's there.
Which is so let's get to the name of your song
Okay.
that you wrote, which
Um,
is
the name of it is 22 to none, because that's our goal.
yeah,
When we talk about veterans, and again, first responders. First responders, I don't know the number offhand, but they're just as bad. Those folks, you know, they go out and deal with this stuff day after day after day after day. Um, and everybody looks at veterans in combat, but never stop and think about our first responders. Um, but I think by and large, that's our goal. We want that 22 to be nothing.
right.
Um,
And
you
that's
know,
what you're doing. That's what you're
I'm
doing is
trying.
you're sharing with people, you're sharing this song, you're sharing your story. And I would love for you to play your song for everybody here.
Right now, I can do that.
Yeah, right now.
I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. I've got sinus congestion, so it may sound better than normal or worse. Well, I guess we're gonna find out.
It's going to be amazing.
Whether I sing it good and bad, more important is people get the message. You know, um, so but yeah, this is 22 to none. Unbeknownst to most Americans, an average of 22 veterans commit suicide every day. It's 22 too many. The day was cold and the sky was gray. The rock was fire and the bugles played. The tears they come, they won't go away. I never thought there'd come a day. Now my mind drifts and it goes back in and out, forward and back. I'm looking for the signs that I might have missed and wishing we weren't here like this. You fought through through hell and you stood tall. You were tough, yeah, you were the wall. But I couldn't see the demons at your soul till they'd won. 22-0. 22-0. Bugle sound hangs in the air. I watch her rise up from her chair. Your son stands there looking lost. The soldier takes a knee. He thanks him for the cost. Now battles won and battles lost. Some are over there, some are not. Some are on the news. Still there's some we can't forget, and no one knows just how damn bad it gets. You fought through hell, and you stood tall. You were tough, yeah, you were the wall. But I couldn't see the demons at your soul till they'd won. 22-0. Now people hug, say it'll be okay. Some folks leave and some folks stay. But he looks up through his teary eye and he says, Mama, it'll be all right. You fought through hell. You stood tall. You were tough. Yeah, you were the wall. But I couldn't see demons at your soul till they'd won. 22-0. 22-0. Man, you fought through hell and you stood tall. You were tough. Damn, you were the wall. But I couldn't see the demons at your soul till they'd won. 22-0. 22-0. 22-0.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you so much. I I want to make sure that we put a recording of that in the post, because for some reason Zoom was not letting us hear the guitar very well. We could still hear it a little bit, but yeah, I want to make sure we put that into the post because, and anybody who's a veteran, I would very much recommend listening to this song. It's very powerful, and me being a military spouse, it just really it hit me in the heart. And having friends like you, Andrew, who have gone through these, I mean, undescribable things. I can't even imagine what you've gone through, but it hit me just to my very core, and I really appreciate you being willing to um, be on here and put yourself out here, especially when you're not feeling well and you're still doing this, my dear friend.
It's
Thank
important,
you.
you know.
It is important. And I just appreciate you. Is there any last words that you'd like to leave people with?
Um, I guess a couple. Uh, first, if your reaction is what I want to get out of the song. I want it to hit people. Um, I want it to resonate. And I want it to hit them hard enough to take action. Doesn't have to be a veteran. Friends, family, neighbors. If you even think, you know, uh, have a welfare check. Talk to them. Something. Um, just do something. Um, the other part is that we do have recordings of 22 to 9. Actually, if you go on YouTube and search the number 2229, it'll be the first one that comes up. Uh, Warn you ahead of time, the recording's a little on the old side. I haven't gotten a new one up. Um, Still working on the audio visual part of it. Not the smartest computer guy. So, uh, yeah, and I guess the last thing is if you're listening to this and you have PTSD, it's going to be hard. Just flat up. You're going to have days where it's great, and you're going to have days where it absolutely bottoms out. When you hit those bottoms, understand it's going to go up. When you're up, understand it's going to go down. Be ready for it. Don't let it discourage you. Don't let it give you a false sense of hope. Um, Understand it for what it is. A lot of people, when they get those ups, hey, I'm better, and they stop therapy. If you understand, nope, I'm going to have it down, you're going to stay with the therapy. And it's important. I've told my friends, don't ever say no to a therapy. If a therapist recommends you do something and says, you want to try this? Yeah, you do. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, you're one step ahead. So continue the
Thank you.
fight. And
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Andrew.
I appreciate it.
Words of what your words of wisdom. Don't give up. Continue the fight. Get help. Right. That's the most important thing. And this message that you are sharing with others is so valuable and so important. So thank you for being
Thank
here,
you.
and thank you to all of those who are listening today. We're here to give you hope for healing, and I want you to have just a wonderful Monday. So God bless, and thank you, Andrew. God bless you too and your
You too,
family.
Cecily. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye bye.